Hey guys, it's Ryan from The Dad Show. Before we get into today's episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor. Have you been looking for a way to get on the water for some family fun? If so, please go visit my friends at Blue Springs Boat Company located in Kingston, Tennessee. Family owned and operated since 1988, Blue Springs Boat Company is the largest authorized Bennington and Regal dealership serving the East Tennessee area. They offer new and used boats, have a full parts department, and a certified service department on hand to help you with all your boating needs. They're proud to be your family's boat dealer. Let Blue Springs Boat Company help you find the right boat for you and your family. Visit them online at www.bluespringsboats.com or call 865-376-1472. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Welcome to the Dad Show Podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now, your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Dad Show. I've got two amazing guests on the show today. Before I introduce these two guys to you, I'd like to ask that you would follow us on all social media at The Dad Show Podcast, as well as online at www.thedadshowpodcast.com. On the show today, Mr. Ryan Dant and Mr. Mark Dant. And I can tell you from my experience, Mark has been a true inspiration, a true angel, a true mentor to not only myself, but my family. We reached out to Mark because he has a son that has MPS as well. And Mark's kind of paved the way. His family's kind of paved the way for a lot of stuff in MPS. And so my family reached out to Mark for a lot of advice, and he's got a huge heart, and he's been given to us ever since, and is a true blessing to our family. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Dant and Mr. Ryan Dant. I want to thank you guys for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say the honor is ours. It's good to find friends
all the way around. And I was just telling Ryan that it's an honor for me to have his perspective, because Kennedy and Lincoln can't tell me what's going on exactly and what they feel through the treatments, but Ryan have lived it, walked it, and suffered through it, and continuing to go through it. It's just an honor for me to hear his perspective, and this is a true gift for me today to be able to have him in front of me. So,
thank you. Honor to be here.
So, guys, I would like that if you could take just a few minutes and give a little bit of context to our audience and let them know a little bit about your family, a little bit about your journey, and what's been going on.
Sure. Yeah. You want to go? You want me to go?
You can go. You always do well with telling our story, and then I'll just ad lib afterwards.
So we were chatting earlier. Ryan now is an adult. His relationship with the old man is a little different than it used to be. Used to be I was always right. It was a good thing. And now he argues with me constantly because that's what friends do. So the good news is we've grown into being friends, which is pretty darn important. So Ryan is my wife, Jean, and our only child. He was diagnosed at 3.5. We were living in Dallas with a disease called MPS 1, which we'd never heard of. Just like Ryan and Allie had never heard of it, I guarantee you, right?
Exactly, yes.
So this was a long time ago. It was diagnosed in 1991. At that time, stem cell and bone marrow transplant was brand new to science, and there was no other treatment for those who may be attenuated. So being diagnosed at 3.5, he was beyond the age of what bone marrow transplant would have worked for him. So we were told there really was no hope to take Ryan home and be with him while we could, because he probably would only last about 10 or 12, maybe 15 years. So just as Allie and Ryan did, that news devastates your life. It takes over your life, because every moment of your life that you had planned was not going to happen. And physicians told you this. We relied on them for truth. And these were the days before the internet. So everything I wanted to know about his disease and what might come came from the library. So during my off time, I would go to the library and learn everything I could, and everything was consistent. There really was no hope for Ryan. So for the first year, that's what we did. We would put him to bed and lay on the floor next to his bed and try to sleep night after night for a year. And I also read a book in the library about how to start a nonprofit. So we start after a year of doing that, of just waiting for nothing to change. We stood up and we started a nonprofit. We called it the Ryan Foundation. We weren't big. Matter of fact, our first fundraiser was a bake sale. It raised $342. But like I was telling Ryan earlier, that for some reason, that movement of getting up off the floor and trying something to change tomorrow actually helped change us. It gave us hope that in effort, something could happen. A lot more fundraisers and a lot more research and a lot more looking for someone. We ended up finding someone working in a World War II era Army Quonset hut behind the county hospital in Torrance, California. His name is Dr. Emil Kakis, MD, PhD, geneticist, genius, who had in his mind he could develop a therapy called enzyme replacement therapy. He would put back in these kids with MPS I who couldn't get transplanted an opportunity to have in their system what they can't make themselves. A few years later, he did it. He started a trial, and Ryan was the third person of the first 10 treated. And on 8 weeks before his 10th birthday, we pushed the button that started the treatment. And everything seemed to change from then. And I think it's the first perfect way to pass over to someone with a different perspective than Gene and mine, someone who actually lived it. So what do you got?
Well, like my dad said, I was diagnosed with this rare disease at the age of 3.5. And at that time, I didn't know I was AKA different. So I was just going to school like I would think a normal kid would go to. But then after that, I would go do physical therapies, lots of doctor's appointments. Then back in 98, when we were out living in Los Angeles during the trial, I started to notice a few things. When I was in the hospital, I started to notice my parents pacing back and forth right before I was getting the medicine. And they were all nervous and everything. And then Dr. Kakis came into the room with the bag of medicine, and they both stood there in shock and awe. And then Dr. Kakis asked my parents if they would like to push the button with him. And so they all were nervous. And then Dr. Kakis connected the IV bag medicine to my IV. And then they all pushed the start button at the same time. And then I noticed all three of them, they all looked happy, because that was the start of the new journey. No one knew what was going to happen. I didn't know what was happening because I was just sitting there in a hospital. That's when I started to realize that maybe I am different, because I didn't know that it was different for a kid my age, 9 years old, to go to a hospital each week, do different physical therapy tests, and then go to Los Angeles, be part of a clinical trial. But then after that, I just started to realize this is different, but I'm not going to let this disease define who I am.
Amen. Amen. That's awesome. I'd asked you the question a little bit earlier. Did you immediately kind of feel a relief or any different, or, just any better? And over time you said that it, and you eventually, you tell the story a whole lot better than I do. So the question was earlier that, did he immediately kind of feel relief after he had got the infusion, or was it later on? And I'll let Mr. Ryan tell the rest of that.
I believe I didn't really recognize or notice any difference immediately, because it was just a regular IV medicine dripping each drop. And I didn't notice anything different. But then a couple of weeks later, when we got released from the hospital, go back to our hotel room, I'd just taken a shower or a bath, and I was standing in front of the mirror, and I had noticed my stomach had shrunk. So I called over my dad and I said, "What's going on with my stomach?"
And it was obvious to me at that point that, with kids with MPS I, their body's not able to make an enzyme that breaks down proteins. So those things stick together and things start to swell up. Ryan's liver and spleen had swollen to about 2.5 size normal. So his stomach was quite large because it stored those are such fatty organs. They stored that material. And the enzyme, and actually visually from two novices not knowing what the heck they're doing, could actually see in the mirror Ryan's stomach was quite smaller. So at that point, we started realizing, well, maybe this is going to be a good thing. And there is great hope in the science that Dr. Kakis brought the world of MPS. Because
at that time, these weren't drugs that had been approved. This wasn't, you were part of the research of it. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so no other drugs had even made it that far to try to treat MPS or any other lysosomal storage disorder, which is the classification that these diseases fall in. There was no treatment for any of the 10, 12 MPSs, nothing. This would be the first that would break the mold and try to see if other therapies could come behind it. The most important thing was, were the kids going to feel better? There were 10 from across the U.S., and remarkably, what do you think? They all started feeling better.
Yeah, I think they all started feeling better gradually. It didn't just happen instantly. It gradually helped and improved everybody's life.
It's interesting as you look back over time now, those kids really did change the world, and not just for NPS 1, but for other NPSs, NPS 2, NPS 4, NPS 6, NPS 7, Pompeii and Fabry, all have therapies now because of the science built by Dr. Kakis and then developed by partnerships in biotech and the FDA, but brought to us by the patients who of all ages. The youngest was 3.5. It could bring potential therapy and change for tomorrow. This is what was brought. And those kids, a lot of them were very sick. And of the first original 10, sadly, there are only 4 that are still living. But the quality of life that it changed, those kids got by the drug that was brought to them, sometimes between the ages of 3.5, the oldest was in their early 20s. It did help them tremendously. And now kids that are diagnosed can through greatness of newborn screening, can actually find out from birth that there are treatments like stem cell and bone marrow and now aldurazyme to treat in conjunction with, in some cases, MPS 1 for better outcomes long term.
Yeah, and that's what Kennedy and Lincoln received, was the enzyme replacement therapies prior to their transplant, and then even after the transplant for, I think it was 12 weeks after the transplant. But still, like, there's so much to unpack and what we've already talked about, because I think of it from Mark's standpoint, feeling so broken, so just empty. I pull up Google, and it's a whole lot easier than going to the library and researching all this. And I remember you just talking about going to the library whenever you got the diagnosis, and the way I felt by pulling up Google whenever I got the diagnosis of Kennedy and Lincoln, how broken I was, how empty I was, and just how depressed. And for you to combat that and take that next step to say, this is not going to be the answer. We're going to pave the way, and this is going to happen. And from, I can't tell you from the bottom of my heart how much that, how much I admire that, how much just courage and a leap of faith. I mean, you want to talk about having faith. That was faith for you to give your son that medication that had not been approved, that you didn't know what was going to happen. I can't imagine the feelings that was probably going through your body whenever you were ready to push that button, because what complications could arise from that, because none of that had been told or none of that had been studied. And from Ryan's standpoint, to notice from a young man's standpoint that you are different, that you may be different, even it's a blessing. It truly is, because of just what you've been able to experience and how much stronger you are because of it. But man, there's so much bullying going on in schools. There's so just meanness in the world. And from your mindset to be laying there in the hospital, which is a depressing place anyways, and to be like, I am different, maybe I am. I don't have words.
You're a good man. I actually have a question for Ryan that I've never asked him. Just if you want to ask him now, just put him on the spot. And I do want to mention that Ryan's wearing sunglasses. We're actually in Boston, and Ryan and I were talking about all these Ryans around here. This Ryan and I were chatting. We're here in Boston because Ryan had a corneal transplant because the drug doesn't work on the cornea. So with time, his vision had gone to 2200, which is pretty bad, actually very, very bad. But the greatness of science again has brought a corneal transplant to him, which we had this week. So the light bothers his eyes. So we call him Ray Charles because he looks cool in the glasses. But thank you for your kind comments, Ryan, about the way I look at it is we're just both dads. I'm a lot older than you, but when Ryan was diagnosed, Gene was 30 and I'm 30. I was 32. So these things happen to us about the same time, mm-hmm. and the pain that you felt. I mean, with Kennedy and Lincoln, is felt by every dad who hears the news from a scientist that when you look at your child, that's tomorrow. You're looking at tomorrow, and all your hopes are tomorrow. When that's taken away, you try to still keep your child from feeling that pain. So we did the same thing. We never told Ryan that he has a disease. We never told him, correct me if I'm wrong, we never told you that you had a disease. We never told you that doctors had said this about tomorrow because we knew that would hurt him. And we got a call once when he was in kindergarten from the school. He went to a private school. And they said that we're very sorry, but a couple of the kids had told Ryan today that he was going to die. Because when we launched the foundation, we needed an article. So we got an article in Dallas Morning News that talked about Ryan's disease. And there was a picture of me and like Ryan, I was a public servant for a long time as a police officer. So there was a picture on Dallas Morning News in front of the Metro section of Ryan standing with me in my police uniform, kind of giving each other a hug, and talked about Ryan's tomorrows. And the parents of these kids probably read the articles and talked about it. And one of the girls told you in kindergarten that, this is a quote from the principal who called me and said, the girl told Ryan that it didn't matter what he thought because he's going to die anyway. Do you remember that happening at all?
Fortunately, I don't remember that, luckily.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. It just build I guess I don't remember mean things that were said to me back then. I just thought I was normal and that was just someone saying something because they didn't like my opinion. I just thought, okay, whatever. Because I hadn't been taught that I was different. I just thought I was normal by going to a doctor's appointment or physical therapy. I didn't really grasp what was happening to me until I was out of UCLA Harbor in the ICU beds with all the doctor cactus walking around with medicine and the nurses all prepping me for the IV and my parents walking back and forth, nervous and everything. That's when it actually hit me that I was different. Yes, I had headaches and everything before then, but I didn't actually know that I had a disease.
But you just thought it was normal. You just thought that everybody experienced that.
Definitely, yeah.
Wow. So what kind of emotions was going through you at that same point whenever you was pushing that button with Caucus and Gene?
For me or?
Yeah, for you.
Well, like you defined it. Yeah. I had such great trust and still do in Emil Caucus. He's the most caring physician I've ever met and the most sound and forward-thinking scientist I will ever know in my life. But beyond that, he's a good person and a really good dad. So Gene and I both had such great trust in him. It's still in the back of your mind. And all my reading in the library, I also read about the FDA process and how many drugs don't make it because they don't work. How many drugs actually during the safety phase caused problems. So in the back of our mind, there's still that, maybe this is not going to work and maybe worse, this could be worse. So we were a little frightened. But because of our deep faith in first in God, and then also in God's servant, Emil Caucus, to bring us help, we were comforted, and that helped us.
And obviously he's a guardian angel for all of MPS and going on into more diseases as well, because that's a godsend because of how much obviously it's helped Ryan, and then obviously helping my kids while they were preparing for transplant. It's an amazing drug, and just I thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping pave the way for that.
Yeah,
I mean that's part of it. That's
you're the one that did everything.
Partners.
But it's part of the dad, and it's the main factor of the dad show. That Mark stepped out of his comfort zone and stepped out of what is, culturally acceptable and everything else. And he said, no, we're going to be different. We're going to do something different, and we're going to save, not our kid's life, but, maybe this will help other kids down the line. And for you to be able to take yourself out of just the comfort zone of being, okay, they told us nothing, that there's nothing we can do. Let's just enjoy our time with Ryan while we have him, and then we'll move on from there. No, you took that first step, like you said, that bake sale of what, $342 is
bingo.
And then taking that first step in anything, not just a bake sale or a nonprofit, taking the first step to better your marriage with your wife or get closer to your kids, just taking that first step when you're so broken, when you're so down, when you're so depressed, will just about bring you out of anything that you're going through.
Absolutely agree. We've all heard the first step is the hardest. Well, it's the hardest for a reason. The biggest reason was we needed something that would get us up off of the floor, because there's nothing more painful than laying there and realizing that everything you wanted is, there's a country song. One of the lines is wandering through the home that might have been. And I picture myself laying on the floor next to Ryan's bed every night, not being able to sleep and wandering through that home, listening to the kids laugh and having all these birthday parties and watching him play football and basketball and baseball and prom and college and marriage and all that stuff. And then realizing like that, I can't think about that because that's the home that won't ever be.
Yes.
The opportunity to stand up and say, take that first step. And no matter what it is, get up off the floor, take that first step, be the dad and go.
Yes, 100%. And that's, I'm sorry, Ryan, I'm talking more to Mark right now, but it's, I met a guy at work, and I think I've said this in every podcast that's came up, but it's such a huge part of my life. Well, I met a guy at work that when Kennedy first got diagnosed, and he was a very faithful, very godly man. And he come up and he said, Ryan, there's going to come a time through this whole situation that you're not going to be able to pray. You're not going to be able to do anything. All you're going to be able to do is cry. But I can tell you right now that God will understand your tears. You don't have to tell him anything. He understands your tears. And I told him, being the wise guy I am, I said, man, you're crazy. All right. It doesn't matter how hard I'm crying. I can always say a prayer in the back of my head, or I can always think a prayer in the back of my head. And I can remember getting Kennedy's diagnosis that it was a few days later, and I was getting ready and it hit me, and just overcome with emotion like never before. And I immediately just hit my knees. That didn't heal anything. I put my head down in my hands. That didn't heal anything. The only thing I could do, I couldn't say anything. I couldn't think anything. I just threw my hands up to God, in almost a way, here, God, take it. I can't bear this anymore. And as soon as I did that, the weight was taken off of me. God reached down and picked that up, and I was able to stand up and continue on with whatever I was doing. And from that day on, I gave Kennedy to God and said, you're bigger than I am. I can't handle this. Your plan, your will be done here on earth or in heaven, whichever way. In the same way with Lincoln. And the whole process, I'm not telling you it was easy, because it wasn't by any means, but taking that motion, taking that first step of faith it made it a whole lot easier.
Yes.
To deal with.
Because you're not alone.
Yes.
I've never told you this, and I've told Mom this either, but when you're telling that story, I know exactly that moment. Before we started the foundation, I would get up in the mornings, and I was working shift work. So 1 month I'd be on night shift, 11 to 7. The next month I'd be on evening shift, 3 to 11. And the next month I'd be on days, 7 to 3. Well, after he was diagnosed, I was on evenings. So get home around midnight. He'd be in bed, but he'd get up around 7. So we'd play for a while, and then I'd take him to the babysitter. And try to get a workout, and then come back home. And then it hit me, that moment you're talking about. And I was in the living room by myself. First off, I got so angry. I would just walking around the little living room and was screaming mad at God, because this is not what's supposed to be. It's not fair. And mostly it wasn't fair to you. That's what just hurt. And I remember raising my hands and kneeling down and having that exact same moment. I was crying so bad because it just didn't make sense. But then it got better. And it probably wasn't not long after that it started. I found that book about starting a nonprofit in the library. So there you go. There's a lot in common here. There
is. And when you speak of those, those commonalities that we have, the same things as Mark had asked my wife and I and the kids to come up to Minnesota to a convention up there and speak a little bit about newborn screening and so on and so forth. But where I'm going with the story is, after one of the nights we sat down at a table and me and Mark and Allie were just kind of talking and going back and forth. And I don't know how we got on the subject. Do you remember, Mark, that you were telling me about the story about you pulling out your badge? And
I think we were talking about sometimes about prayer, but there is an opportunity there, something along that line. And then it hit me, the story about the coincidence of the badge. So
yeah, and so Mark is telling a story, and he pulls out his badge that he still has from being a police officer there in Dallas. Correct? Is that where you?
It's still in Dallas and North Side, Carrollton.
And so he pulls out his badge and he says, "My badge number is 413," and it hit me. I was like, 413? That's my birthday, April 13th. And then his son, obviously, his name Ryan. My name's Ryan, and just there's a ton of stuff that we could go on for days. I'm sure that talking about the similarities between.
Yeah, and I think where we just like that moment, everything just froze, is when you said your birthday's 413. When's your birthday?
413.
His name's Ryan, and his birthday's April 13th. I mean, what are the odds of these two characters here? I mean, come on.
What a coincidence.
That's just that's amazing.
You nailed it on the head there, Ryan. It's no coincidence. It was 110% God moments, and
yeah,
that's why whenever you pulled out your badge and said it was Ryan's birthday and your badge number was 413, and then and I said my birthday, and it was literally silence in the room. There was nothing, like everybody's mouths were open.
Yes.
And
yeah, what are the odds of that? Yeah.
So, like you said, it's no coincidence, and it's no coincidence you guys are on the show today. It's going to get even better than what it already has. So, Ryan, going through your doctor's appointments, going through your surgeries, you're continuing the road and journey through your diagnosis. Was there any more standout moments or any more tough times, or were you able to just be like, maybe I am different, but it's not going to get me down. I'm going to continue to just push forward. I'm going to continue to push strong. Or was it just like, or did it kind of depress you in a way after having that first moment of saying, maybe I am different, or maybe I lead a different life than most kids?
Maybe since my parents never really told me I had a disease, I just lived after that acknowledgement, getting the first dose of medicine, as like, okay, yes, I have a disease, or yes, I'm different, but I'm not going to let it define me. Because yes, I did have surgeries in the future, but those didn't hold me back from having dreams for the future. Going to high school, getting my driver's license, and then going to college, working for college football teams, as well as all the future things that I've done. Is just, I didn't let this disease define me or hold me back from wanting to achieve goals that I set forth for myself.
Awesome. I believe that comes from your father there, doesn't it?
Just a little bit, wee bit.
That determination that it's not going to get me down. We're going to continue to pave the way. That is awesome. So, Mark, was there any, after that initial infusion, was there any standout moments through any more surgeries, or anything that pops out in your head, that man, this is, and I don't want to sound terrible with this question, Ron, but it's like, I've walked out a couple of Kennedy's surgeries where she's going to be put under, and I can remember looking at my wife and being like, our little girl's strong. She didn't, she wanted to cry so bad whenever they're about to put the mask on her to put her to sleep, or she wanted to cry so bad when they're about to put the IV on her, and I can, a few of those times I can remember looking at Allie and being like, our little girl's strong. She's determined. I know she wanted to cry so bad, almost like she just scored the winning touchdown to win the Super Bowl kind of deal, like in our field, in our reality, that's what that moment was like, man, I'm so proud of her because she tried to stay strong. She didn't let it get to her. She's not going to let this depress her. She's not going to just give up, and she's going to stay strong, and she's going to continue to fight.
Absolutely. I remember, he's had a good number of surgeries. What is it now?
14 or 15 now.
15 now, along the way, different procedures, and there's more in the future. And if someone said that about me, they would say, but I'd be over in the corner crying about what's coming. But what makes me proud about my son is he's not doing that. He realizes something else is coming, but he's focusing on what I can do today to make what I really want to happen tomorrow happen. When he was, I think, in first grade or second grade, his hands had gotten really bad where he couldn't use them much anymore. The physicians at Scottish Rite there in Dallas had decided that they wanted to do both hands carpal tunnel and both hands tendon release to be able to open up his fingers and have him use them more. He loved baseball, but he wasn't able to grip the bat anymore. So that's another long story. But he had the surgery and it went well, but he had these robots on the back of his hands that they actually superglued him from here to here, and then it had little fingers that would open and close his fingers. It's kind of an experimental thing. It was on nearly every day for quite a while to open and close, trying to get the ligaments just to keep working. I had him in one of those little wagons. We were pulling, just walking around outside on the weekend, and Scottish Rite on the weekend. It's not just a few visitors. And it wasn't very crowded. And I looked at him, he had the saddest look on his face because there wasn't anybody there visiting. And that's not what he wanted to do. It was a beautiful day. I'm sure he wanted to play baseball. We brought him back to the room. And when we got back to the room, he said, hey, do you think I can play video games? He was out of it. It was if the moment of sadness was there and it came to pass, and now he wanted to do something else. And that's the way it was on every surgery. And you felt those moments when you have to say goodbye to your beautiful little child, and they're going back for surgery, and they're scared. They don't want to be that. But something about their strength comes back and gave me the strength. I tell one story. We were getting ready to say goodbye to him on one of his surgeries, and he was getting ready to pull back. And at the bed next to his was a little boy who was going back, and his head was shaved, and the dad's head was shaved. The dad must have been a farmer. He was a huge man. He had these big bib overalls on, and a big T-shirt. You tell he worked really hard for a living. And the dad and the boy was really strong. The dad started to tear up. The boy looked at him, kind of held his hand and said, "Right back, Dad." And they wheeled him away. The dad stayed strong, but as soon as they wheeled away, the dad busted out crying, so sad. But then he was over it because I know where he got his strength from watching his little boy be strong. So it's the miracle, the partnership of what happens between dads and their children. It truly is. We learn from each other.
Yeah, and some of those moments, Ryan, can you remember being like, I've got to be strong. I see my parents, they're about to break down. Have you been like, man, I've got to stay strong so I can make them stronger?
I think so. Like probably for the hand surgery, because I've had multiple hand surgeries. And then probably for the spinal lumbar punctures that I do. When we first started those, we were all scared because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I needed to stay strong because as they were doing back in 98, pacing around the hospital, biting their nails, praying and everything. And just thought, I got to stay strong. Just got to get through it. Because if I don't get through the surgery, I'm going to still be the same way I am right now. I need to have the surgery so I can improve, get back to living the dreams and things that I want to do.
That's awesome. Like I said, it's truly a gift for me to hear this other side from Ryan. It's truly a gift for me. So Mark, how did you and your wife's relationship through these hard times, where you and where I want our audience to get some value of not just ignoring your relationship with your wife, your marriage with your wife? How did you guys continue to carry through as a team, to fight, to raise money for the foundation, to fight for Ryan's life, to take care of Ryan? How did you and your wife, was there any particular goal? Was there any particular game plan? Was there anything that you can remember being like, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to, stick together for our marriage as well as be there for Ryan?
Well, I think that's a good question, because when I look back now as an older person over the journey, I realized there never was a roadmap. I was scouring the library for something to tell me what to do, and there wasn't anything. So what we realized as a couple then is maybe we don't have to have a roadmap. We just have to have effort. We have to try to make a change. And so we never really had those specific conversations of, okay, I'm going to do that if you can do that, or vice versa. Jean picked up all the things that she could do, and she did so many amazing things to help Ryan through the daily tasks of being Ryan, normal. And I would do all the things of be gone constantly and knocking on doors and getting told no all the time, and come home and being in such a sour mood. But somehow she would be able to work through that sour mood and help me get back into a normal mindset, and help me realize that we're really doing everything for Ryan and for tomorrow, for all the kids with these disorders that nobody had ever heard of. We can make a change. If we can't make a change for this one, maybe we can do something for everybody along the line. But we never had a roadmap of, I'm going to do that if you'll do this. It was if something needed to be done, then I felt like I could do these things. And I'd come home and all these other things of loving Ryan and helping him through the day, and following up on the horrors of insurance and things like, I get too mad at people like that. Gene has the ability to calmly talk him through back into sense without somebody over dad being the yeller and getting mad. Now, occasionally it's time to step in, but her strengths kind of balance my weaknesses. Let's put it that way. And I think because of that, we were able to fight through
it. And just make a great team.
Yes.
That's
that doesn't mean there weren't arguments. It doesn't mean there weren't battles, because sometimes she just doesn't realize that I'm right. Yeah. She didn't hear that, did she?
I'll put that part out. And Ryan, from your standpoint, because you are getting of the age back at this time in 98 to be able to realize what was going on, what was your thoughts of your parents, knowing that you had MPS and knowing that they're out there fighting to raise money for your life? What did that mean to you at that time? And I try to put myself in a 9 to 10-year-old's position of, you may realize that your parents are out there fighting for your life, but you may not. So I'd like to get your perspective on what your thoughts were during this time as well.
I believe probably at that time frame, I didn't really know what they were doing. I guess when I'm just at home, it was just a normal life because they were doing everything that I wanted to do. Probably go play baseball, go to the park, go ride bikes. I didn't really grasp what my dad was doing outside with all the fundraising with the Ryan Foundation people. And I didn't realize what my mom was doing with my dad with insurance things. It's amazing to watch back all the videos of what they did back during that time frame. Because if it weren't for them and the Ryan Foundation people, I wouldn't be here today. So I have to give all the credit to my parents and the foundation and Dr. Kakis, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them, starting with the bake sale and then gradually going up to big fundraisers. because they didn't give up. They were up till like midnight, even later than that, doing board meetings and things of that nature.
And that's the reason I asked that question is because, Kennedy's 6, she's starting to realize more, and she's very intelligent. And I'm going all the time, or, on a Zoom call doing stuff. And she's like, Daddy, why are you, why do you have to go here? Why do you have to go do this? Why do we have the golf tournament? Why are we working so hard on this? Why are, and at times she's like, just play. I just want you to stay and play. And I'm like, baby, I got to go. This has to happen. This has got to be done. So I was just trying to wonder if, you kind of realize that your parents are out there fighting for your life. They're raising money for your life to extend, to make it better, to make it a better life. And so thank you for that feedback on.
Nope. I think I didn't really grasp it until we started having the big fundraisers, the big parties and everything. We were all dressed up in tuxedos, and then seeing all the gifts and everything, all the auctions and all the big live band shows and everyone coming up to me and seeing all the videos, and just that's when it started clicking. Dad was always on the phone during calls, just talking for money and things of that nature. And just that's when it started to grasp just all the fundraisers and things of that nature.
He probably doesn't remember this, but early on, after the base stuff, we had all kinds of goofy things that every little dollar trying to make a difference. Chili cook-offs and raffles, and I had a boxing tournament once. And just things that were all time eaters. So after the big event, which was usually the golf tournament and an auction, when he was 4, when he was 5, when he was 6, and maybe when he was 7, he would meet us in the garage, and Gene and Ryan would tell me, okay, throw all of it away. That was the last one. Because he said, Ryan said, you're always gone, Dad. I don't want you to always be gone. Or you're always on the phone. You need to be here more because you're always gone. So I literally would throw a bunch of stuff away, but I would throw it into my truck to take it away. And then I'd bring it back into the garage and hide it later on.
In the attic.
In the attic. Yeah. So now he knows. It was the same as Kennedy is they're realizing that you're gone, and what they want is you to be here. But there was a time, I guess, when you realized there's a reason.
Right. Definitely.
And that's, I was a big golfer. And so basically every weekend, anytime I had free prior to having Kennedy and Lincoln, I'd go spend 5-6 hours at the golf course, playing golf, hanging out with the guys, doing everything of that nature. And so even after we had Kennedy, before her diagnosis, I was still taking it for granted of what I really had. And so now I haven't played golf except for on our golf tournament because, she does. I am working all the time, doing stuff, trying to raise awareness, trying to raise money for MPS. And so now, instead of taking that 5 and 6 hours extra to go and spend at the golf course hanging out with the guys, if I've got that extra time in my day, I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to spend time with her and try to combat that. No, Daddy, I want you here. I don't want you going anymore. And it's the sacrifices that dads make to do what they can to save their kids' lives. And a lot of kids or a lot of dads don't realize that because they don't live our life. They don't live in our reality. And so they do take a lot for granted. And I don't resent those dads, but I just want to get the message across that spend all the time that you can with your kids and be with them and love them and take care of them and play with them as much as you can, because like we both know, at any point in time that can be taken away.
Gone. Yes. And you nailed it again. People outside of the space where your child has a certain condition, the changes tomorrow, I know they cannot see the path that we're on. I wish that sometimes they could, not in a painful way, but just in the way that we're able to recognize, well, when I wake up in the morning, I want to do everything I can for them to remember this day, because this is the day that's important. It really is. If they had that opportunity, I think dads could do better. They could be better at their job.
Yes.
Do we have a gift of sorts?
Yeah. And that's, that I'm with you completely, that I don't want them to feel my pain. I don't want them to feel my sadness that I feel. All I want is the message to get across is that at any point in time that can be taken away from you, please cherish as much time with your kids as you possibly can.
Yes, absolutely.
And so to touch on a little bit more with Jean, with your wife there, Mark, how was your relationship? I know that you were fighting for Ryan's life. You were fighting to raise money for the foundation, for research and for a cure and for a treatment. And how was your all's relationship? I know that you said there was still some battles, there was still some fights in this, or not. We'll call them discussions. We won't call them battles or fights, but some discussions. How was your all's relationship through this whole journey?
I think I look back on it now and I see that I was able to find strength in her, and her probably in me. I think in the bigger world, I could see that we actually grew closer together in many ways, because no one knew the pain of what happened today on Earth. There wasn't another person on Earth about what happened with Ryan's life that knows it as well as I do, as Jean. And she felt the same way about me. So I think now that we can look at that and say, there really is, the word partnership is based on likenesses. No one felt the pain like me except Jean. Now that said, I know there are a lot of couples with children with rare conditions or any type of condition who it is so difficult that a divorce is really, really, really high. It's hard to judge that because I'm not in that home at that moment. I would hope that dads can understand that this life isn't easy, and neither one of us chose it, but that's okay. We're in it. It feels better to be in it with a partner. So I would never use the word easy. Our relationship was never easy. But now that we're a lot older, it's so wonderful to look and see that she's always been there. Always.
No matter what.
No matter what. Yeah.
Is there any advice that you would give to a newly diagnosed family, or even a family that's been going this journey, that their relationship is struggling with their wife? Is there any advice that you would give that husband or that wife to try and carry on, to grow closer, to be stronger together?
I find value in prayer. I know that Jean does. And I think we didn't realize each other and found that much value in prayer until we actually asked each other about it, talked about it. I think that's really important. I think it's also important to realize that you're going to make mistakes. Both of you will. And there is no greater thing than forgiveness on maybe saying mean things. I've said some many mean things over my life. I wish I wouldn't have said, but forgiveness changes everything. It really does. Just don't give up. There's tomorrow's coming. Just don't give up.
I can remember you bringing up prayer. I can remember whenever we'd got Kennedy's diagnosis and we'd put her in her crib at night, and then me and my wife, it's probably one of the strongest bonds that you can do with your significant other, whoever that may be. We would put Kennedy in her crib, she would go to sleep, and then me and her would stand there and hold each other and just pray together over Kennedy. And I believe that in that moment brought us the closest and strongest that we've ever been.
Isn't that amazing? Those are the moments of youth. And there's a reason for that. And that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
So Ryan, how much did it mean to you to see that your mother and your father bonding so strongly together? Even take the foundation, even take fighting for your life out of the way, but everyday ordinary occurrences, seeing that your mother and your father stood by each other and had that strong relationship. How much did that mean to you, and how has it helped you as you've gone through life?
It's helped me greatly just to see them, how they interact with each other. throughout my life just shows that their strong relationship really helped me become successful. Though they may not agree on everything, they always come to an agreement on a way to work towards a problem or through the problem and everything. Just amazing to see what great relationship they have and everything they've gone through with the trials and with all the surgeries, just how they've been prosperous or everything's that nature, getting through it all together with ease.
Do you feel like that's made you stronger through your surgeries, through your trials, through this journey? Do you feel like that's made you stronger and helped you out as well?
I believe it has. Just to see both my mom and my dad on both sides, seeing them both come together and help me through everything's made it easier and a stronger person.
Yeah, I believe 100%. It's not what we tell our kids. It's, you know, what they see in our relationship. We can tell them, say, yes, you need to be good to your significant other. You need to take care of them. You need to nurture them. But for them to actually see us live that sermon rather than just saying it, I feel like is a whole lot better.
Right, definitely.
It means a whole lot more. Ryan, you just graduated college, correct?
Yes, I graduated in 2017 from college. Just got engaged last year. So we're planning our wedding. My fiance and I are planning our wedding for next year in July back in Dallas. So we're getting all that excited, and other news is coming up. That'll be in the near future. Things will be out and things of that nature. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you and Sylvia and this journey that you're about to embark on, and just getting to grow closer together and learn each other, and just stay strong and stay faithful, and you know, look to God for the rest of your journey. That's my best advice I can give you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I wish that somebody would have kind of gave me that advice, because I've been like a new baby deer trying to walk, you know, can't stand up and struggling that whole way. So do you think that seeing your mom and dad have that strong relationship, do you think that's going to help you in your new marriage to try and resemble that? Or
definitely, because my fiance Sylvia, she knows about my disease. She knows about the surgeries. She's been to a few of my surgeries, so she knows what's intact with my life. That doesn't scare her. My disease doesn't scare her because she loves me for me. And she's in it for the long haul. She knows what my parents have gone through, and she knows that her and I will be a great team and will be successful in the surgeries as well as in the future endeavors of family and things of that nature too.
That's awesome. So Mark, is there anything that you would go back and do differently?
When I look over the course of the foundation and the course of what's happened with Ryan, the one thing that comes to my mind is I need to be more openly thankful to the people who made everything happen. I hope that Dr. Kakis and his family, who also sacrificed, there were holidays where he wasn't there because he was in the lab working either by himself or side by side with other researchers to make this happen. I hope that they know how thankful all of us are for him and his work. But also the moms and dads who worked on volunteered countless hours there in Texas to change the life of Ryan and all the kids in the future. They'll never get a chance to meet. I wish they could meet Kennedy and Lincoln to let them know that their gift of that pre and post transplant drug that helped them have better outcomes really did change those lives as well. Ryan mentioned me I would go over to their houses before the big events, right after dinner at 7. I wouldn't leave sometimes till 3 a.m. or 4. And by the time, if I was on day shift, I'd be work by 6:30. They would call me at 7 or 7:50 on the way to take their kids to school, volunteering all these hours to make a difference for kids they'll never meet. I wish I could go back and tell them every moment of every day how thankful I am for what they've done, what they're doing for all of us. And all the donors and all the people who are still trying to make a difference in the disease they'll never hear of or never find anybody with. Those are the heroes to me, because they're donating to change lives, and those hours did change lives. Absolutely. So look back and be more thankful.
And you and I both know that those events can't happen without that help.
No, just won't happen.
Yeah, we need that help. And I feel that same guilt, that same pain of all those people that, they know our family, but they don't have any ties to the disease.
Right.
But yet they give their time, they give their money, they give, their 100% effort and give up a lot of days throughout the year to come help us.
Those are the heroes. They really are. And I wish there was some way that we can make them understand that they really did change everything. They did. They are.
And that's just being a servant of God. You're not serving for your own purpose, and you're not being selfish. You're continuing to help other people.
Yes, absolutely.
And be in the hands of feet.
Yep. I just like hearing how your kids are doing, and we chatted a little bit before that, but I think of them every day. I really do.
Thank you.
Getting to meet them in Minnesota was huge for me personally. It really did. And I wish your listeners could know what a great job you and Allie did. They're telling your stories to scientists who are rolling out newborn screening across the nation. I've often wondered, what does science mean to the scientist? And what it meant on that day, and from that day forward, was their work is changing lives like yours, your family's life. And what you told them and what they got to see with your beautiful children with you, I know in my heart it changed their drive for their work. It really did. So thank you for that. It really meant a lot to a lot of people.
And God put that on my heart. I was laying down the night before that last day, and I couldn't go to sleep. And God just kept putting this speech, these same words in my head. And I said, and I'm not the type of person that if I'm not asked to speak, I'm not going to ask to say anything. If you don't ask me a question, I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm not going to give you an opinion. But you ask me, I'm going to give you everything that I think I know. But
yeah, that's it.
But yeah, he was definitely working throughout the night, because he kept putting that in my head the whole time, and those words, and throughout that next day. And then I just finally took the courage, and I said, look, there's something I need to say. And it wasn't something that Ryan needed to say. It was God's message to those people through me that needed to be said.
Using your voice. Absolutely. You say that, and I know I keep copying you, but it is remarkable to me that 20 or 25 years later, the same things are happening to you. They're happening to other dads around the world, but they don't realize it. But now I can look back and say, so shortly after Ryan was diagnosed, after that first year laying on the floor, every night for like a week, I kept hearing the words Ryan Foundation. Ryan Foundation. I never told Gene, I never let it out of my heart, never said anything. So we planned to, Gene worked for American Airlines, so we could fly for free, which is great. So we knew about Ryan, so we wanted to make sure that Ryan got to visit my sisters and her brothers and parents. So I had Gene's parents fly out to Sacramento, and then we met my sister and her husband and went skiing for a weekend. So Ryan had a really bad headache and some other things, so we had to go to find a Walgreens. So my sister and I went out to Walgreens, and she's a very kind person. She wanted to talk about Ryan's diagnosis, and she said, "What are you going to do?" And then I can remember the moment driving, and I actually started crying. And I said, "God's telling me to start something called the Ryan Foundation. I don't know what that means, but I feel like I need to start something. I keep hearing Ryan Foundation." She said, "Well, maybe you need to start a foundation." But it was the same way as when you were laying in bed before you gave that remarkable talk the next day. The people who needed to hear it, there are words in your mind that God wants to use your voice. And look what happened. So,
yeah, I mean, look what happened. I mean, you're helping to save your son's life, but also how many other kids through that God-given thought of the Ryan Foundation, of where it started with a bake sale to where it is now. And not only for like I said, for your son's life of saving him and making a better life for him, but how many kids, with you and Dr. Kakis and the Ryan Foundation, how many kids has had a better life because of that?
Just gonna let it out, right?
Just taking that first step.
Yes.
Yeah. So your first step wasn't actually the bake sale. Your first step was actually listening to God and creating the Ryan Foundation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely true. Yeah, very nice.
Oh gosh, there was a story you told in Minnesota. You told us, and I feel like didn't it have to do with the Adams golf? Didn't you?
Yeah, Barney Adams. That was another one of those stories that a God thing. That's what we were talking about, God things. And that's when I told the story about the badge and 413 and your face, everything stopped. So, and the article that the little girl told Ryan, you're going to die anyway. In the article, it talked about how next spring we were going to have a golf tournament, because actually I just bought some clubs when I made commander. I was going to be a golf. I always liked sports. So I wanted to be a golfer. So I bought some clubs. So I said, we're going to have a golf tournament. And they put that in the newspaper. So then I realized, so I found a location and they gave us a good cut on it, but I needed things for the winners. So I went to the yellow pages because before the internet, and I wrote down every type of golf manufacturer, distributor, whatever, retail shop, all of Dallas Fort Worth, huge place. So every day before work, if I was working evenings or days or nights, whatever, I'd get in my car, my truck, I'd drive to the shop and hit them, knock on the door and go in. And I have a copy of the article in Dallas Morning News. So one of the shops I found in the back of a retail shop in Richardson, which is a suburb of Dallas, was a place called Adams Golf. So I walked in there and it was like a 15 by 15 space, and these clubs were leaning up against the wall. And on the door it said, "Positively, absolutely no solicitors." So I went in anyway. Started hitting up the lady behind the desk. This guy came out with an apron on, who was putting gloves together. He said, "Well, you probably got more money than I do, but you got to have an auction. As a matter of fact, I'll give you some of these clubs. They're going to make a big clubs. You should have an auction." I thought, okay, we'll have an auction. We'll auction these off. So I started hitting up other people for a spot to have an auction with it. Well, his name's Barney Adams. And every year I'd go back, but by the second year he wasn't there anymore. And I thought, well, he probably closed. We'd launched through an infomercial, Tight Lice, Adams Golf Tight Lice, then they went public. And every year he became close friends with us. And he would call other, like Tom Fazio, a golf course designer, and say, you need to get involved in this. He called Golf Digest. They did 2 feature articles on Ryan and the foundation. That helped us, all because we had the courage to walk by the sign that said no solicitors. And one year, Barney met Ryan and I for breakfast at his favorite breakfast spot. And he slips a piece of paper across the desk and across the table and said, "Here, this is from Jackie, his wonderful wife and I." And so I said, "Okay." He goes, "Well, you should look at it. Check for $100,000. We just want to do that for you." But he's such a good man. Still to this day, he'll email us a couple times a month to see how he's doing, and still raises money for the foundation because, and he's met a few people through the foundation with NPS, but he just really is a kind person who's out there, but you have to have the courage to go find him.
And Mark, you're just a true walk of faith, man. You continue to
we got this going on.
You continue to surprise me with the stories that, just anybody else would have looked at that sign and be like, okay, I can't go in there. I don't want to do it. But you're like, no, I'm going to step on this faith. I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to push on. I'm going to push through no matter what. Nothing's going to stop me.
It's a God thing. Yeah, there's so many. You're running into them now, and there'll be so many more in front of you. You just have to be the voice. It's been a great conversation. You're really good at this. Your podcasts are really interesting.
Well, thank you.
You found a niche. It's good.
I hope so. I've said that from the day one that, that just like everything else that's came up, I wasn't a great husband. I wasn't a great dad. And then through Kennedy's diagnosis and Lincoln's diagnosis and everything we've been through has helped me, not go play golf for 5 or 6 hours, stay at home and try to be a better dad. And I'm not perfect by any means or do the perfect things. God gave me this thought again through my head to create something because I was trying to become better at all those aspects. Mm-hmm. And God gave me this. And actually, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it for nothing. I said, there's got to be something out there that's already called the Dad Show. There's got to be something. And so I went to the podcast and looked, there was nothing. I went to Facebook and looked, and there was like a couple of small little things. And I went to other social media outlets. There was nothing. The dadshow.com domain name is still available.
Isn't that amazing?
And
grab it. That's amazing.
Well, here's the kicker to that.
It always bumps.
There's this company that buys up all these popular domain names and resells them. So they're trying to make me pay $3,000 for the domain name. And so that's why the Dad Show podcast is the domain name, because at this point in time, I can't fork out $3,000 just for a domain name, you know?
Yeah. We had that problem once, and it's amazing again, the similar lines. Some company had bought a Ryan Foundation, and I wasn't a technical guy at all. So the guy that was helping me out, another volunteer, said, "We'll just go with the Ryan Foundation, and they won't have that." They didn't, and then they kept trying to get, and finally they let it go. So then we grabbed ryanfoundation.org and .net, but somebody's got .com. So what the heck? Yeah.
Well, it's an organization, so there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
So hopefully hopefully the podcast will eventually monetize enough to be able to.
I think it will. It's good stuff.
To pay for it. So thank you for your kind words. I greatly appreciate it.
We'll make sure we tell people about it as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Count on it.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's 100% God thing.
Lives will change. Good stuff. I'm glad you're doing it. Really glad.
So guys, is there anywhere for our audience to be able to go follow you guys on social media, to engage with you? If they want to leave any comments or have any questions for you, is there anywhere they can find you online?
The RyanFoundation.org, as well as the Ryan Foundation has a Facebook page. So if you follow that, you're able to send us a private message, and then we can send you a message back too. We sometimes update that. It's just whenever we have news and things of that nature.
Yeah. Ryan's going to come out with something here in a few weeks, I think. He doesn't really want to mention it yet, but he's got some ideas. So maybe I'll get in touch with you later on and say, okay, now he's got this thing that he's working on. It will be helpful for stuff. So we'll get back with you on that. But for me, you can always contact me through email at, through Every Life, the Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases at mark.dant@everylife.org. Or even simpler, markdant@outlook.com. Or go, like Ryan said, to the Ryan Foundation. You'll see another address from me there.
Awesome.
I welcome all emails. It's good to have conversations.
Yes, for sure. And thank you for being a man of faith, and thank you for your time. And Ryan, thank you for continuing to fight and do what you do to continue to help with research and going through these clinical trials and surgeries, and just continuing the journey to make MPS better.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words, and for doing everything you're doing with this podcast, because you're getting things started. Because there needs to be a podcast that talks about this.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah, we need a whole lot better dads in the world, and through these conversations, we'll all get better.
Yeah, good stuff.
So thank you guys, and God bless you. Appreciate it.
God bless.
Thanks. Tell Allie we said hello. All right.
I definitely will.
We're going to get him and Gene to meet your whole family.
Yeah, we do need to plan a dinner and get together for sure.
Good.
So everybody, please go follow Ryan and Mark and on their journey continuing through with MPS at the ryanfoundation.org, or go to the Every Life Foundation and find Mark and contact him there. And also you can find him on Facebook at the Ryan Foundation and message as well. So please go give him some love, go subscribe. And I'm ready to hear what Ryan's got in store for us here coming up through these ideas. I know he's going to act on them. He's not just going to listen to these ideas and throw them to the side. So, So I'm excited about that. But for the rest of it, if you would, please go to @The Dad Show Podcast on all social media outlets to engage with us, as well as online at thedadshowpodcast.com. I want to thank everybody for being here and for your time. God bless you, and we love you. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show Podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.